where it's been like all about the T sides, but then once they hit that brick wall, you know, it's very hard, especially on the London side of things, to overcome their issues.
All right, over to DDK and Yumi for Mirage.
Yes, well, we'll see T-side at Endpoint, just running straight through connector here for the triple-pronged attack. Smoke down onto jungle position, so the CTs can't do all that much to begin with. They are forced back by the utilities, so the bomb will go down, which is lovely for Endpoint.
And it's good to see we're already seeing a different strategy here, and we'll see if London are able to successfully mount the retake. But Pulse, with those 3 kills towards connector, brings it into that 4-on-2. Soulcast and Eccles now need to recover the situation. They do have the kit available on Eccles, the smoke as well, able to be deployed, and that's exactly what will happen. He'll try and stick it on through. Soulcast will try his best to cover his teammate, but ultimately spam down through the smoke into this 2-on-1. The kit recovered, and he'll do the exact same thing and see a little bit more success, but this time Pulse will end the round on 4 kills. As at Endpoint, they pick up the pistol round.
Yeah, he actually got the ace. So just pretty aggressive right here, just spamming that Glock away. It's the Glock, sometimes it felt like just you can't hit anything. Doesn't matter like how carefully you place your shots, and sometimes just everything connects. So lovely start there for Endpoint, and they'll have to deal with the force bite from London, which is interesting to see. Mirage, one of the maps where you do see definitely a lot of teams making different decisions as to whether you go for the full save on this round or the force buy. So we'll have to see if it works out. Because we do have a fast B split coming in from Endpoint, which I think is a really cool way to handle a force buy. Oh dear, Stanley's is in trouble. And Eccles is stuck on the bomb side alone. So this B split has worked quite well.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that you bring up the buy here, because I think a lot of teams are comfortable to kind of go for that early aggressive mid controls. We've seen more and more in the meta off that second or third round buy, but this time instead probably opting for better utility. We've seen Astro and Eccles take up the AWP for the side, and they've done quite a lot of damage to Endpoint here, but looking to mainly contain them in the bomb site if possible, try and take a few more weapons away, and ultimately it's just about economic damage at this point.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see whether or not London can just get straight back into this one, or if we're going to see that same trend with the CT sides just being a struggle. I think one of the interesting things when you're playing a T side and you get a good start like this, it's really interesting from the standpoint of how you predict the rounds, because you know exactly what the CTs have. It's very easy to understand. Like you can take the initiative straight away and just start pressuring one side of the map a lot. Start conditioning the CTs into thinking in certain ways, and then those mind games can be really, really fun to watch at the beginning of a half. But you have to really win the first few rounds to make that happen, and we'll see if that will be the case here for Endpoint. Still playing the anti-eco, and it doesn't look like London will go for a stack or anything like that. It looks pretty normal from them.
Oh, the flash through. Thomas is there to at least support his teammate, so Pulse in his loving arms will get away with that. Down to these last 2 players, Eccles and Stanley on B short. They tried to go for the boost, but losing all of their A side presence, they need to now make that rotation on through, and Robin gets away with a little bit of an off angle that Stanley wasn't expecting, and Eccles will just try and get away with his deagle, maybe do a bit of damage if possible on the exit, because they should be able to muster a buy together in that 4th round.
Yeah, and I have to say, I'm really still just loving the new economy. I think we just get to see more Counter-Strike. We get to see a more interesting decision on that second round. If you lose the pistol, you either get to decide to force it up and have that 4th round buy, which is with the AWP, or you can wait one and have the M4s. And it's one of those things where there are 2 good decisions. Depends on the team you're playing against. Depends on the map. So that's I think it's been so much fun to watch.
And we'll see if London try to change things up on the CT side. They played very, very passive, similar to Endpoint, kind of throughout both the maps we've seen so far, but aggressive mid control has become more and more prevalent recently, especially on Mirage. So instead opting for the kind of standard 3 towards that middle area so that they can support one another should one want to go for that peak, but Laza taking a hefty amount of nade damage to attempt that pick towards the B bomb side on that AWP, and ultimately Endpoint just playing out this round slowly, allowing Laza the space to maybe open up the round and show a bit of presence on B. The hit will actually be going over towards this A site.
The classic smokes on A. The set piece will be successful, and London will go for a retake as well. They don't have much in the way of retake utility, so that is somewhat of an issue. We'll have to see what post-plant positions we can find the T's in, but there's a gap in the connector smoke, and that's a huge problem. The bomb can't go down, and now the smokes are going away. So the retake smokes and or general utility is not really as required, considering how much work Astro's just done. But Luzza coming in on the lurk there from Catwalk, doing excellent damage with that AWP, causing all sorts of problems. Maybe they'll be able to recover this one, but it's very back and forth here as we get more carnage on the bomb side, as finally the bomb can go down.
And that's a crucial kill for Max as well. Luzza still holds his connector, knows Astro was in that position, and ultimately the player that opens things up for London is the only one that really contributes anything to the round. He's the only one that really contributes kills. Stanley did find one for himself as well, but ultimately Endpoint will still pick up the round, keeping 2 alive, and London once again will be onto a safe situation.
Yeah, it's looking really good, isn't it, for Endpoint at the moment? This start is nice, and considering the gap in the connector smoke, and I think that's something that we see like, pretty often actually. Not many people have a consistent connector smoke that they throw in that set piece, and it can cause all sorts of problems, especially if you have the AWP in the right spot like we saw. But fortunately with the lurk they were able to control things. And I'm curious, whether London will decide to make things a bit funky, because one of the fun things about CT side of Mirage is that you have lots of options for aggression. I mean, they could try to play passively once more, see what Endpoint are after, if they will just settle back into a set piece after a default like we saw, or if maybe they would instead like to try to take middle away, try to be more proactive and find that information and then set up against whatever they can deduce. It's a journey of discovery for me when it comes to these teams.
And it seems like we're going to see kind of the trend will continue, at least in this series. The CT side starts off as a struggle, and the terrorists kind of... It seems that I think every single pistol round has gone into the terrorists' favor on every map so far.
Wow.
So.
Yeah.
I would love to know the number of CT to T rounds that we've had so far in this series. Or maybe actually I don't want to know. There's been very, very few CT rounds, let's put it that way.
That'll be a bit of a good sign here for London. They're able to recover an AK. I imagine Soulcast should be able to get... Oh, never mind. I was thinking maybe he gets one more kill there at the end, and there wouldn't be anyone really close enough to contest it. You might be able to carry that AK forward, but instead, London will opt for the double AWP setup once again. It seems like that is what they've kind of wanted to deploy on across all the maps so far, and it seems like it'll actually cycle into different hands this time. Astro and Stanley as opposed to Eccles. That seemed to be the secondary AWPer for that London side, but Endpoint, they still have SMGs to work with as well, and Luzza peering over the smoke almost finds one through the flames. I barely see him.
Yeah, shooting over the Molotovs is really annoying. Unfortunate though for Endpoint, because we could see that London had a similar idea. They had an AWPer on bench as Astro. Oh, wow, okay, just popping out of the balcony then. Thomas going for it, and that's going to be the bomb side under control. The bomb has to make its way across, but this is very explosive. This contact play is working out really well here for Endpoint. They've got the bomb behind triple now, as they've got, or they're working on control on CT as well. We see a smoke, an aggressive smoke there on CT. There is a gap, but they don't have to go any further forward. They have a 3-man lineup there. That's quite interesting. And London, what are they going for here? They've got 2 players in mid. Robin will discover them. So that is some information aware that they are saving now.
Yeah, and imagine, based on the amount of money that they have available to them as reserve, they will want to take these weapons out of the hands of the London side. We see them kind of chasing a little bit far forward, and Luzza actually lands the shot. Stanley trained on the angle, unable to convert. And that's one of the AWPs that London likes to utilize in these CT side rounds, now taken out as a factor, so only the one that they have to worry about in Astro. But he's been, so far, based on the mistakes of Endpoint or the gap in the smoke on that A site execute, he's been able to capitalize and at least bring things in contention, but instantly 6 rounds down, London will call a timeout.
Yeah, that's definitely good. DeBez always says, call the timeout, ice the kicker, which it means make them chill out a bit. I guess if they're on a hot streak, you want to try to break that momentum with the timeout is effectively what that means. But obviously it also serves a purpose to sort of figure out as to how they want to handle this CT side, because Endpoint are taking some liberties here. The fact that Thomas is, very happy to just carry that Mag-10 and to be expendable, and as we saw, just found that timing to jump out of the balcony, and that's going to happen every so often. And the fact that he was in the right place at the right time to capitalize was pretty rough for London, but let's see if they can recover here. 1 AWP instead of 2 might be a better adjustment for them.
And London are immediately changing the pace. They want to take a bit more control towards the middle on that CT side, going for that aggressive push through. The flash is there as well, but Thomas is spotted out, so they show their hand a little bit in mid, but that will prompt this aggression towards the B side of the map. Eccles deploys the smoke to counteract the Molotov, and he's still waiting around this Sprite, and Laza will actually take him down. That's their B side defenders now dealt with. Endpoint have found both the openings, and it's Laza to find both of those kills. The bomb is still dropped, but now recovered into the hands of Pulse. He'll dial in the digits. And now London onto another retake, a man down.
Yeah, this is really nice, just that fast B set piece from Endpoint. Really catching London. And Link's trying to get a look in here. It's looking very difficult though. Multiple players facing him at once, and it's just Astro left with the AWP. He'll get some cheeky kills as they try to chase him down, but he won't be able to win the round at this point. And I wonder what the next call is for Endpoint. Do they settle into a default? Do they try to go for just a mid take and go back into a set piece after they put players into position? There's I think there's a lot of good options to play a slower round to see if London sort of try to overcompensate here, because they can actually force buy behind this. It's going to look like a 4-buy. Well, it's effectively a 4-buy, so not really a force buy. So much success here.
I thought Eccles from that position might... Okay. I didn't even realize that shot was as ridiculous as that onto Stanley. I think he tried to fall back as well from short to allow the retake to come to full fruition, but I think, like you were saying, this time setting up into kind of a mid-control default, just throwing some presence and just keeping the London side back, and we'll see if they can find and exploit the overcompensation, over-aggression on the side of London. Probably a little bit of nade damage.
Just working that mid, as you mentioned, and London, they don't have too much presence there, so it's just Stanley really, and surely they'll pre-aim this if they try to peek it. Very common position to check, and Stanley will be faster though, so Thomas will go down, and that's the mid-window smokes, as well as catwalk by the CTs. So Stanley trying to delay them here, and that will help to counteract the mid-smoke. And that's a lovely find from Stanley. He's going to go forwards, playing out on the limb there, and it works out pretty well. Gets a dink. So 3v3 now as Soulcast tries to confirm what's going on.
Yeah, and there's some aggressive positioning on both the A and the B bomb side. They put Eccles on that AWP to kind of look all the way down that hallway towards underpass as well, and playing close to the ramp, they were able to allow more players to kind of fight in middle, and maybe getting a little bit overzealous there, finding that first kill and not potentially falling back, try to capitalize on more. Endpoint bring it to a equal numbers exchange, but their HP is oh so low. 25 seconds remain on the clock as well, so they need to pick up the pace here, as they don't really have a huge amount of numbers towards this A bomb site. You still see Laza kind of lurking around with that AWP once more. We'll see if he can find anything, but Link spots him out, and now as they barrel out of Palace, Soulcast is able to clean things up. They needed to go quickly, and ultimately the time not proving to be a friend of theirs. London will finally get their first round on the board, but it's still quite a heavy deficit at this point.
Yeah, definitely. At least it's something. Of course, as mentioned in that previous map, the risk of the reset is pretty enormous, and Endpoint will realize that as well. So based on how they feel London are most comfortable playing in a round like this, likely knowing there's still 2 AWPs out, we'll have to see if their response is predictable, like a fast set piece. But speaking of which, Robin's going very quickly into connector. Flashbang there for him as he flicks on to Link. That is pretty good. A 1-for-1, absolutely favorable for the T side. Endpoint, minute half left and a 4v4. That's definitely a lot to work with here for them.
I'm interested to see whether Endpoint continue to kind of play these slowed out rounds. Granted, Robin finds the entry very early on in connector, but nobody else really with him. They're still playing relatively passive on the A side of things, but it seems like the A bomb side is exactly what they have planned in this round. The connector presence as well as players positioned at ramp and palace, and they're looking to try and isolate these players on the site. Soulcast between the flames and all the utility before him. He still has Astro to cover out his palace, and Stanley will actually contribute off of short. They'll all chime in through with 1 kill each as it becomes Thomas in the 1 versus 3. He does have the bomb on his back and the ability to reposition, but as the smokes begin to fade, Eccles will get the last contributing kill. So London are able to chain 2 rounds together, keep 3 players alive as well. And that is at least some signs of life here. Getting that contributing round and getting 2 in a row is definitely a huge benefit to them.
The all-important consecutive rounds, and Endpoint, again, they'll be aware that there's 2 AWPs out. I'm curious to see if we'll have, you know, a slow default into a set piece to try to just get the bomb down, force the AWPs to go for retake where they're a bit weaker. I'm going to move out of position and so on. We'll have mid taken, you know, 2 players under pass, or at least 1, and with the option for Robin to go top mid. And so this is a slow looking default here from Endpoint so far. You have the man Pulse playing on the extremity towards the pit position as well. So quite slow here, but this is a problem. Astro's got a great position with the AWP. He picks one off here. That's going to be very detrimental for Endpoint. And there it is. That's beautiful. And there's a smoke. Perfect.
Yeah, and Endpoint, when they've played these passive defaults, have actually lost both the times that they've used them. When they've gone for these faster plays and they've gone for these contact plays, they've been able to catch out the London side and on the defense just a little bit unsuspecting and unaware of that possibility. Stanley trying to help his teammate towards connector, eats a hefty chunk of nade damage. The Molotov will push him back as well, so it comes down to Link to hold this crossfire with Astro, and it seems like they're just going to barrel up the connector. The smoke to isolate Link. He'll get the first, but may not be able to get away with the second. His position known. Luzzle will take him down with the AWP, and now in a 3 versus 3, they're going to have to kind of sit back a little bit because Robin, he'll punish Stanley trying to find something at the bottom of connector. It comes down to the 2 AWPs of London in this retake, and it seems like they're just going to back away, realizing that they maybe don't have as much utility available to them as they'd like, but Astro may still be able to do a bit of damage here.
Yeah, it's definitely quite awkward at this point. It was, to be honest, I feel like it was a very awkward round in general. Endpoint sort of trying to force their way through connector, London sort of knowing it's happening, but sort of struggling to find a good way to deal with it. And for Endpoint, you know, as you'd mentioned, some of these slower rounds have been a bit sketchy here and there. And so this is perfect to actually win a round like this now after struggling with it. It would be fun to see them switching up that pace where they're more comfortable and, you know, looking to break that CT economy. They'll still be able to force buy 2 drops out of the players with the AWPs, and they can have a buy here. You definitely want to get that those 2 AWPs with some supporting rifles. They will take a timeout though to perhaps figure out how to distribute the money, but Endpoint are in such a strong position here. They will be gutted if they weren't able to convert.
Yeah, they've at least secured that they kind of win out the half, and at least in the numbers game. It's just about mitigating and getting as much of a lead coming into that T-side half as we've seen across both of the maps so far. But like you'd said, dropping weapons over, they should be able to muster some form of an SMG, and it will be the UMP deployed by Soulcast. But because of this kind of a weaker buy from Soulcast, I'd be interested to see where he plays and how he tries to exploit that SMG's kind of close quarters combat and not high efficiency at long ranges. But
and it's interesting too because, you know, the AWPs are sort of the counter to contact plays to sort of picking base styles like that. And so that's again the reason why you want to, if you know there's AWPs out like this, you just have to test the set piece, see how good they are at playing retake, because they're going to be forced into retake with the AWPs. And you can see here they just go for walkouts, and it's the absolute opposite as to how you want to approach around where there's this kind of a setup for the CTs. So I feel like London Endpoint are making it a little bit easy here for London in some regards, but it's 3v5 on Mirage, so there's still an opportunity for them to do something, and they will opt to go for mid now.
And this is potentially the last map for London, so they need to start getting rounds on the board to make this competitive if they want to stay in the OMEN UK Open. And Stanley, he'll get 2 as Mighty Max, the last player remaining for the Endpoint side. He does have the smoke available to him, bit of a whiffed one at that, but the shot not converted by Eccles. That will mean that Max can get the plant down as he looks to take this round into his own hands, can reposition fully on the site because London are nowhere to be seen. And with that AWP trained Astro, he'll take him down in the end. London They avert danger there. Endpoint will be happy for it with a little bit of extra cash there, considering how the round went and how Stanley contributed to the London round. So they'll get 3 together, but so far it's a bit sketchy the way that some of these rounds have gone and how many players they're losing as a result.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I hope that they've sort of figured it out at this point. Double orbs, you can't just sort of walk into angles against them, is specifically what they're there to deal with. And the fast plays, it's also one of those things where sometimes you'll have a team doing something, it's successful, and they're like, oh, if we keep doing this, maybe they'll figure it out. And sometimes that's actually just not the case. Sometimes you just have to do what works. And this faster pace, looks like they'll be going back for this B set piece once again. This was very successful previously.
Eccles with the AWP. Max thought he'd gotten past, but ultimately punished as Astro's Molotov does so much damage. I think a nade thrown as well to contribute to that, slowing them down just enough, and the Flames will do the rest. So Endpoint, they tried to go for that set piece, but the Molotovs and the counter utility deployed by London able to put a stop to it, and the bomb is in their possession as well, so they've pushed aggressively in the apartments. Lazza and Robin are in full recovery mode, and I imagine, even with a minute remaining, they're just trying to save and hold on to these weapons.
It's kind of a scary prospect for Endpoint as well, because after the struggles in playing some of those slower rounds and playing the defaults out and dealing with the double orbs in rounds like that, they go back to sort of what was tried and tested and perhaps true, which has now been discovered to be false. They'll all be a lie. In fact, London this time around defended this really well. So I'm curious how the response will be for Endpoint. They have absolutely no money, so it's going to be difficult to get back into this one. London have a really good shot at just sort of making this into a 7-8 if things keep going this way. And also if we don't see a proper punish to the double orbs.
Lazza just spots out the shins of his opponents, but into another AWP, and that will be Endpoint now into a bit of save territory. London have a bit more space to maybe get a few more rounds together and allow that utility to do more of the work and the better equipment here. And that opening pick from Eccles is so big, the utility. They don't have a smoke. I think they tried to throw a smoke to extinguish it, but it's just falling a bit short and not fully extinguishing the flames.
Yeah, that's a big problem, isn't it? Oh, fast spawn for the T's into mid. And they'll get some damage here, but the AK should do a nice job with the cleanup and maybe taking a little bit too much damage, but I think their economy is fine, so I doubt they care too much.
They had no presence on B. We saw Mighty Max actually jump down and try to help out in middle from that B bomb site. And he's in a very, very forward position, but they're privy to it. They understand that that's a possibility at the very least. And it will be about how much damage they allow Endpoint to do here, whether they're able to recover AWPs and maybe swing the round back into their favor, because the bomb is at least dropped in an irrecoverable spot for them. So they'll all group up together and see if they can't overwhelm this lone B-side defender on the London side.
Yeah, you're right. All it takes is a missed shot, and it's Astro on the AWP. If he whiffs one shot, they will close the distance very quickly. And so perhaps there's a really good chance here. It's a good flash into the bomb site. And Astro's in trouble, pulls out the P250, and he's going to go down immediately. Endpoint might have a very surprising round win on their hands if they play this correctly. Got a good advantage on that bomb plant. Got a player in the apps as well. Oh, you've got to be so careful, just running across the window. And you can definitely play time here as Eccles will go forwards through the door, looking for the next players with the AWP. It's very awkward, but that is fantastic. Now it's just Pulse left. A 1-2 punch with the M4 will close it down, but that was almost very scary.
Yeah, despite the best efforts of Eccles, he lands two really nice shots on that retake, and unfortunately not able to locate Pulse and deal with him fast enough, because winning that 1 versus 2 brings Endpoint to a 9th round now in London. They've had quite a few struggles and just a few too many openings, it seems, in some of these rounds, and this time Endpoint are able to exploit it. Can't rely solely on the individuals to step up for the London side. And we do at least see that they get the double ops back into their hands, but this time SMGs as well as a contributing factor, and Thomas will actually punish Stanley going for an aggressive underground peek with no support from any of his teammates.
It felt like he just fell off there as well. It felt like he didn't intend to actually do that, so he's got to be feeling pretty red-faced at the moment. Astro will be able to trade a frag back though, so that's something, but it's still a 4v4, which will allow the T side to exploit some additional space on the map that's been created with now a weaker defense overall. Like we can see on the minimap that mid has been pretty much completely voided, and they are relying on Eccles to play close in the B apps to get information as they play pretty passively everywhere else. There will be an A hit here for Endpoint.
Creeping on through, and Thomas still lurking towards the B site. The bomb in position, but with 45 seconds remaining, I imagine Thomas will either begin to make some noise, but the nades now deployed on towards that A site. It will fall into the hands of both Astro and Soulcast, and still playing it patient, still waiting for the right chance to strike. Soulcast getting spotted out. Pulse will actually come out on top of the exchange, and Astro sitting behind the smoke will deny the plant. He's got the bomb at his feet as well. 20 seconds left. Laza and Robin need to push on forward. They need to recover that bomb and get it planted because time is not on their side, and the perfect flash comes through for Link to capitalize on the kill on Robin. And Astro and Link will clean things up. London, they get another round to their name. They get to 5 as Endpoint still just falling short of double digits.
Yeah, it's been so awkward, hasn't it? Some of these rounds are just so difficult for both teams, and we'll see a force buy coming in from Endpoint. Obviously, the last round of the first half, so they'll do with this what they can, and just one rifle. But this could work out. We'll see the pace will be very quick, and that's something that has been favorable for them in the past. Astro, though, will get a nice leg shot onto Robin. Will spot everything as well. Call to his teammates that they're just flooding into connector, so they have an understanding that this is happening. They've got great positions to deal with it as well, so it's not looking like Endpoint will be able to get too much done here. We'll get some damage in though.
They brought it a little bit close, but now it falls into the hands of Laza. He has an AK available, but Astro peeking wide, making sure that he can't get the plant on the site. London, they've recovered this half, I think. It's just based on the way that Endpoint were able to take a contributing or very large lead at the start of this half, and usually coming down to those rush and contact plays. Very good job from London to at least adapt and make some changes to their CT side setup.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how this goes now. Endpoint on that CT side. Obviously, the theme of this best of 5 has been terrible CT sides, but if Endpoint can win maybe the first CT pistol of the series, maybe.
This is the most rounds we've seen on the CT side at the half, I think.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think it's fair to say. Quick A push coming in from London, and everyone jumping around, taking jungle by force. Pulse in a corner there, but he's got some support, and this is actually working out tremendously well for the CT side. Endpoint in a 4 versus 1. Oh my goodness, Astro's got a lot in his hands, and he will be dealt with. Okay, so CT pistol picked up.
And it was the exact same CT pistol that we saw Vexed and Endpoint use in their series. It was the top of connector smoke, like Bardolph mentioned. It's just, it seems to be a go-to, at least as far as the OMEN UK Open goes.
I haven't seen it be successful yet, but I have a limited sample size.
I think Endpoint really prepared for it there as well. So, like they were yesterday against Vex, it seems maybe they're kind of the pioneers of it in a sense, and just the perfect anti-setup almost.
This time.
Yes, give it to me.
Oh, they fall back into it as well.
I wanted more. Wanted more. Could have been more. It was still good. Still meaty. Meaty enough. Well, they go back to A. It's doing a tour of Mirage.
Stanley doing a few spins as he jumps on through, but yeah, they're seeing if they can maybe catch out an over-rotation from Endpoint, but there's not enough presence shown. They realize that there's no actual players on the B-bomb site. We see that Thomas is actually pushed on through. They'll fall into the hands of Pulse to try and mitigate some of this damage, but actually, Link and Astro both get 2 kills. Robin is at least there to stop them recovering the second rifle, but Link has one in his hands, and that could be a huge difference maker in a round like this. Oh, never mind. He's been instantly deleted from Robin. He's still holding strong at the stairs. He allowed his teammates to rotate on through, and as they push onto this bomb site, they'll barrel on through together. Robin and Thomas clean things up, and Endpoint, they only lose 2 players. They're able to recover a few rifles as well, but London doing a bit more damage than you probably expect based on the amount of weapons that they had.
Yeah, this is going to be quite scary for London if they can't find a way onto the board quickly. Just obviously, Endpoint winning both pistols, and the prospect for the AWP to come out onto Luzza. I'm not sure exactly how he's going to be playing it on Mirage just yet, but I'd imagine that's a scary enough prospect once Endpoint gets some momentum themselves. So London need to make sure that absolutely does not happen, and that should also not be happening.
He jumped, forgot to throw, and then just forgot to jump.
That's, yeah, I've done that recently, but I feel like I have more excuse.
I was going to say that even you throw smokes better than that, Dan, but apparently I was wrong. If you do that as well, never mind.
Yeah, and if you're just joining us, this is the third map in a best of 5. Endpoint took the first 2 maps, and this has to be a win for London, else we do have our first OMEN UK Open champions, and that would be Endpoint, but London still looking to try and answer back, get a map under their belt and push things to a map 4, and that will be the first kill going their way. Astra with the AWP finds Robin peeking around the smoke, trying to use it as a bit of a one-way, but they're anticipating that based on the flames and the Molotov and the way the smoke was extinguished and deployed. Stanley pushing the advantage even further as well, spotted out on the push through. We'll bring things into a 5-on-3 and they'll regroup. They'll try and overwhelm this defender on the B-bomb site as Thomas tries to stand strong and is ultimately dropped. That should secure the plant now for London as they look to try and take their first T-side round.
And one of the problems I think there as well is that play that Robin made is fine with an AWP, where you know that they won't suspect necessarily. They might be pre-aiming it, but they might not suspect that the smoke will have a gap in it due to the Molotov that you threw and so on. But within M4, I think it's very ambitious, and we can see that from that point forwards, you're just fighting from behind. That player is often such a linchpin in a defense, especially when your defense only has rifles, because it allows the Ts, as we saw, to get into window, to get into connector, to get into jungle, to get in through the CT spawn, to get deep on catwalk. It completely isolates the CTs on both sides of the map. So it's one of those spots where I think if you only have a rifle setup, you've got to be really cautious as to how you make those moves. And with a lot of teams, what we'll see is we'll actually see them trying to contest mid, trying to flash for each other, trying to actually create a situation where they don't allow it to go for free. So that looks like quite the struggle there. And if London are able to take mids like that repeatedly, that's going to be a massive deal in this second half.
Yeah, we will see another buy coming out from the Endpoint side, and this time it's not quite that good. SMGs and a 5-7 into the hands of Thomas, Robin, and Mighty Max, as Luzza and Pulse do at least have rifles available, but London immediately setting up for smokes, and it seems like they've got a very succinct plan coming into this round, and that's good to see, at least on this T side. They throw the smoke towards window and connector, allow these players to run up mid, and it does seem like it's going to be a B site split. Mighty Max on short with the 5-7. Able to find one as Tomix contributes, and spinning around, Link caught between 2 angles, ultimately finds 3 kills for himself, and still one more to find as they try and get this bomb down on the B bomb site, but playing things so passive, Luzza has the potential to find isolated engagements. And actually finds and springs onto Link. Astro now the sole remaining. Does have the bomb available, and it's still a minute left on the clock, so he definitely has chances to reconsider this move towards the B site. But doesn't want to lose track of these 2 players.
And they have to be so careful as well. You absolutely do not want to give a 1v1 in this situation, and you want to try to force the T to plant the bomb so that you have information as to where he is, and you can kind of play together with your teammate. And we'll see Astra going for the big rotation. And with so much time killed with no information for Endpoint, it's a complete coin flip as to whether it'll be B or A. So you can see that they're not really split up. They can still react together. They're just there to be able to get as much in the way of sound cues as possible, and maybe exploit any sneaky moves that Astra may be going for, but otherwise playing it safe. And they do have a smoke and flashes as well to play retake with. So bomb has been planted, and the 2v1 is on.
Yeah, and they'll actually group up, realizing that it's the A-bomb site now. They know Astra should be on this AWP. He's been AWPing for the London side so far in this series and trying to find isolated picks. He gets the opportunity, but flubs it, doesn't counter-strike properly. He gets 2 chances at it, and he still hasn't hit the shot. The third is there, though. 3 strikes and you're out, Pulse. You've brought it to this one-on-one, and Luzza, he's deployed the smoke. He doesn't know whether he's on it, and now he needs to jump on through. His time is running low. He needs to get on it. He's on the defuse, and as the smoke fades, Astra will convert. He gets both kills at the end there, 1 versus 2. It was a bit, there were a few chances that
God,
were
that was
missed.
awkward.
Oh man,
Let's be honest. That
That
was
was
really
rough.
awkward.
Yeah, it was.
that was just like everyone's failing here. You have a situation where they know what the AWPer is, but they don't quite initially know what to do with the smoke or the flashes, and then they just like he had 3 shots, which he probably connects every day of the week normally. That's how many chances they gave him before he starts hitting shots.
And they didn't seem interested in facing at all, or like trying to
Yeah.
challenge the AWP, so.
No, exactly. It was very strange. Oh man. Still thinking about that one. That was really not
It's,
good.
it's so weird as well from Luzzer at the end. It's like if you're kind of faking it out to maybe make him waste his ammo, just go for that completely, but then he decides to go for a hold just as the smoke starts to fade to
At
make
the
it
worst
easy
possible
for him.
moment, yeah.
It's like, it's so weird decision making in the end.
It just seemed like panic from start to finish, and like no one sort of realized what to do. Yeah, it's one of those difficult spots. It's James and I were playing a Faceit game the other day, and we had like a similar spot where it's just there's just this indecision between a 2v1 of just chasing the guy down, so you guarantee the trade, just and get the defuse, versus 2 people being in 2 mines, and then it just falls apart immediately if the players are not on the same page.
And we can kind of bash that round as we may. It's just a bit of an awkward one, but those are the kinds of rounds that London will probably need to get back into the series and get back into this map, because they are still at a deficit and they're 2 maps behind. As Endpoint have taken a commanding lead in the series, Luzzer will open up the round, but instantly traded by Soulcast. I think Robin's position is known based on where he deployed that smoke. He'll try and escape and take some sanctuary in the smoke, but ultimately with his teammate backing him up, he should be able to escape narrowly, but Link finding an entry towards the A site now. That will leave a huge gap in the defense, and Endpoint need to start making rotations as to where these London players are going.
That's a good timing from Link. As soon as the connector player dies, he knows that the tension will be taken away. And Robin with a nice counterplay, just going aggressive, trying to be reactive, or proactive, I should say, and not just sort of sitting there and staring at a corner. That's really nice, and that's a 3v3 now with a minute left, and there's some decisions to be made by London, and we'll see they'll be making those decisions. Moving up catwalk towards the B-bomb site is the choice, and just Mighty Max is there to defend, just next to the bench, making sure he can keep eyes on the apartments and also eyes on catwalk. Has he spotted it? Yes, I think he has. He's called the rotation.
Max now still trying to hide, and he springs out the right opportunity, finds Eccles, the low HP player, as well in Soulcast. Astra will answer back, but he misses yet another shot, and this time it's a crucial one as Thomas will take him down. So Endpoint, they've stopped the 3 string of rounds that London have been able to get together, and this time they'll be getting to a 12th round and getting a buy into this one. But again, it's not going to be the strongest buy on this CT side. London chaining a few rounds together. They have everything available to them. So we'll see whether this SMG and potentially the AWP to open things up, but Astra will punish that aggression very early on from Luzzer. I imagine that will leave enough space for Pulse to maybe recover that AWP, the secondary AWPer of choice for the Endpoint side regardless. So
yeah, it's unlucky timing there from Luzzer. You never can quite know. There's always some element of risk. It's the opposite, or rather the T-side AWPer decides to post up on your angle. And we'll see the mid-take coming in here. Progressing nicely for London as Stanley's walks into connector, just clearing that one as well. And this is really nice. 5 versus 4, you have a man in connector. They're walking up catwalk as well with the bomb, so it looks like they are thinking about going for the B play with Stanley's as the lurking connector. That is a pretty strong option, but Mighty Max could actually make this a big problem. This position is strong. And Eccles, though, he's in ladder room, so Mighty Max, oh my god, he didn't see him. How did he not see him? That's a problem. And now Thomas and Mighty Max will bear down on this position, and you can see they'll force them back here. So London, they're in mid, but now all the smokes are gone. They're going to have to make the play work on the B-bomb side, but they don't have the bomb.
yeah, still trying to commit towards this B-bomb site. Max is between them, but as he dies through the smoke, Robin will answer back with one of his own. He brought it to a 2-on-2 Endpoint, so despite the fact that they've gotten the bomb now to the site, will be equal numbers as we get into a post plant. Pulse trained on the angle, waiting for a peek here from London, but they can just wait things out. They had a heavy presence on Catwalk earlier, so the rotation not likely to come through from Endpoint. And as now they start to make the sound cues, push onto the bomb site, Pulse, he won't get the chance to trade because he had the opportunity, he misses it, and Soulcast will close out the round. London convert another kind of post-plant situation, and Endpoint just fall a little bit short, and their money not in the best of spots. Will have to eco, allow London to get ever so much closer towards that lead that Endpoint have had for so long.
Big resets. No one likes it. Well, I guess except the other team. But yes, it's definitely...
So about half the people then.
definitely a problem. And we'll see, actually, the pistol's working quite nicely there towards the pit position. That's 2 rifles claimed by Pulse and that 5-7 work. And all of a sudden, desperation mode for London. But they do the smart... Well, they go for the smart choice. They go for that B play, just running straight in there, understanding to stack towards A. That's a nice shot defensively from Astro. So there's still a chance to hold on to this with the bomb plant.
Oh, and he actually legs Thomas, or sorry, Mighty Max up through the smoke. He's just dancing around it, hoping that they don't clear this position, as eventually that piece of cover will begin to fade. I think the teammates trying to kind of support, try and throw some utility to help him out, but it fades, and Max is at least there for the trade. These 5-7s doing a lot of damage so far, and Robin with the recovered AK able to take down Astro. He's brought it into this one-on-one now as Eccles answers back, but Robin chasing the trade. Endpoint are able to steal away around versus the London full buy.
Didn't expect that one.
Yeah, Pulse as well on Inferno had a similar round where he just got 3 kills with that 5-7. It seems like that's just his gun for situations exactly like this.
I remember now, yes, on the B-bomb sites. Yes, that was very nice. Okay, so this is a bit weird now. 3 MP9s for the CT side. Mag 10, 2 CZs for London as well. So both these working with a weird buy, but they'll just run straight into the AWP of Lazar. He'll be loving that as Pulse goes close with the MP9, drops down quite quickly. Shadow position working out well for him as the trades come in thick and fast. Astro alone though with 7 HP. This is a problem.
Oh, able to just narrowly dodge the nade. Takes 2 damage as a result, but still looking for an isolated fight. Max will spot him above the smoke, and Endpoint, they're getting ever so much closer to shutting this game out in a 3-0 manner. London, their money is in the bin. It's really, really bad for at least answering back and trying to get rounds together, because they need to win 6 in a row to at least win out, or 5 to get it to overtime.
Yeah, this is really rough. It is one of those spots, isn't it, where it's playing for overtime is not that bad considering that it's only 5 rounds, but at the same time it's a tough one. They'll have $2,400 if they eco fully in this round, or an additional $2,400, so they'll have enough for a full buy, and so Astro would be able to buy AWP with I think it'll be AWP and a flashbang would be all that he would be able to buy if he goes for an AWP. But he is 30 for 11 is Astro, so he's having a game at least.
Yeah, unfortunately, just he's kind of torn away from the pack as far as the rest of the London side, not maybe getting the supporting cast involved in this game so far. So it seems like they will go for exactly that option. They've decided to save for the overtime and hope that they're just able to chain 5 rounds together. They're showing a bit of presence on A, trying to bait out some utility, and they've been successful in doing so. Endpoint tried to do as much damage as possible, but it seems like a similar kind of a Glock eco from the London side. We saw this earlier, where they just decide to take a tour of Mirage, familiarize themselves with the map once again.
Oh, into the MP9. Or maybe not. Thomas will be loving this. And they'll run away again. As you say, trying to expend as much utility from their CT side as possible. And also perhaps using it as an impromptu timeout. It's going to have a chat. Trying to force CTs to make a mistake.
But Thomas has pushed B-apps, so this is going to end in disaster, surely.
Oh yeah, Endpoint seem very okay. They're doing it again.
Back to B lads. Doing laps like they're in the pool.
Maybe this is like you know, the old existence style where like you use these eco rounds also as timeouts. Maybe they're going for a bit of that where they're just sort of running around and also chatting strats.
Oh no, they've changed it up here.
for like the next round.
They kept going back and forth. Now they've actually gone back and then gone back to the A site.
So the master plan. The master stroke, let's go.
Okay, yeah, it doesn't.
Ah, they're all gone. They did waste some money for Endpoint, but ultimately it will not matter. It's all about this round. The AWP will in fact come out onto Astro, the AWP flashbang as discussed, and they'll go for the AKs and utilities. So what is the plan here for London? They have been fairly successful, I would say, on a lot of the T sides and opening things up towards middle. So maybe they'll go back to the tried and tested.
It seems like Endpoint aren't even going to give them that opportunity, not going for that initial peek early on. Instead, peering over towards Connector and seeing if they are any London players cheating out, and this time there's nobody on the receiving end. London playing this round out very, very slowly, in fact, playing out the kind of passive default to look for any sort of aggression from the Endpoint side. Granted, because they have this lead, they have chances to maybe throw a spanner in the works of what London have planned in some of these rounds, and so maybe London clued into that particular set or kind of mindset.
So waiting to go for top mid control now, about to burst up there, and it's not really too much to stop them. Endpoint playing this passively. It's very difficult in this spot sometimes. You really want to make sure you play safe, but if you play it too safe, sometimes you'll create openings inadvertently. Everything has some element of risk.
And we see that Endpoint, because they've given middle control for so long, now 45 seconds remaining, they're looking and prodding for some information. Thomas on short and Laza trained with the AWP on B-Apps. He'll open things up in this round, and this is a big one at that. And Thomas on short with the MP9 gets all three necessary, drop the bomb as well, and that will be Endpoint taking the series 3-0 versus London. We thought it would be a closer affair. We thought they'd be able to muster together lots more on that CT side, but Endpoint just coming out more commanding and just able to convert more rounds in the end.
And most importantly, that means that Endpoint are your OMEN UK Open champions. So congratulations to them. They're going to get some fat PCs as well as a fat chunk of change as well for their victory in this Open. It has been a long affair with over 500, almost 600 teams entering. That's pretty crazy, but it's Endpoint who come out on top. I think it was a very comfortable series from them from start to finish versus London Esports. But again, for London Esports, there's plenty to take away if they do watch the demos and look at the things to fix up in their game.
Yeah, I think this is really positive for any of the sort of I say criticisms that we had with their play throughout this series. It was there is so much to fix, and there's so many easy fixes as well if they are to check out those demos and take this as a sign of, you know, let's stick together, let's keep on grinding together, let's take this seriously, because they have a lot of skill, and I for one would love to see them, you know, breaking into, you know, more upper echelon leagues. That'd be amazing.
Here are the overall statistics from the series. So again, Astro with a big performance on Mirage. However, even that wasn't enough for more than 10 rounds for his team. Robin with 111 frags in the series. Maybe MVP for him. His ADR's off the chain as well. So again, congratulations to Endpoint. I think we could take another look at all the swag they won, because it does look so sexy indeed. You can see some of the PCs on either side of the studio here, flanking us. Definitely not yours, Dan. And we can see those 1080s, those big processors. Oh man, that's all so juicy indeed. Winning team taking those.